we met on a dating app. I thought to myself, I can't bring a man into this relationship without eyes wide open. So the first line of my online dating profile was, I have 6 children and a psychotic ex-husband. Oh. And I guess Ted liked that.
Hey, Glow Talks fam, welcome back. Today's conversation is for every couple who's looking to stay connected inside of a beautiful marriage while raising kids and all the chaos of life. We're here today to discuss it all. I have an amazing couple here who have walked through it, including a blended family of 9 children. I'm honored for you to be here, and it goes to show that you're doing a great job if you're here and ready to share your story with our viewers. I'm very excited to introduce Ted and Jen Williamson.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
It's great to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm thrilled because I know some of your story, and we had the pleasure of meeting at church, and our kids haven't been to school together, and then some of the events here in the office, which thank you so much for all your support. And this is just a great opportunity to share some of your inspiring story with our viewers, and hope to help build confidence, right, in marriage and connecting, even with all of the challenges that life throws us, right?
Yep, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you guys met. Let's start there. I think that's the important thing.
Go ahead.
So we met online.
Okay.
I had been divorced for almost 2 years. You were maybe 4 years out, 3 or 4 years out.
3 to 4.
And I was just lonely and kind of missed adult conversation. At the time, I had 6 children under probably the age of 11 or 12.
Okay.
The youngest was still 2 or 3 at the time. And yeah, I just really missed having conversations with adults. And so
companionship, right?
Yeah, companionship. And I'm not going to say for this that I miss sex, but I did miss sex, but you can cut that part out totally.
No, don't. No. I mean, look, that's one of the beautiful things about being in a healthy and whole relationship in a marriage, right?
Yeah. I missed affection, right?
Yeah.
But I think, I knew I wasn't going to try to go to bars. I couldn't afford a babysitter. I wasn't going to go anywhere else where you would normally meet someone at my age. And so I thought, okay, let's try online dating. This was mid-2000s. And
so not that it was like the online dating was like new, but I think it wasn't necessarily what it is today as far as like in a whole industry.
I think there was still a stigma with it too.
Yeah.
People didn't really necessarily talk about online dating quite
I
the
didn't
same.
love talking about it at that time.
Now I think it's absolutely fabulous because you can really kind of blow away the chaff before you find the right person.
And I mean, this is probably a challenge. And I mean, I know, my Rudy is no longer with me, and, there's always challenges of dating, like when you have kids, number one, and just being like a more seasoned adult, right? Where you already know yourself, you know what you like and don't like for the most part, right? But yeah, it can be really daunting to think of like, how am I going to go out and meet someone and present myself? And then like, what does that all look like?
Yeah. It did all of the filtering up front.
Got it.
And it was just easier.
Yeah.
To cut through a lot of what you do when you go out to a bar. Just start talking to people.
Well, yeah, you're vetting.
Yeah.
And I know in your situation, you had a very challenging, divorce and relationship prior to, which I'm sure you were, scared, probably.
Cautious.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Definitely looking for the red flags. And that's why I love, if you go into a restaurant with someone and you can tell sometimes within a minute whether or not you're compatible, but you might feel a little compelled to stay through dinner and then pay for half the dinner, and that's just a waste of an hour or two.
Yeah.
And so I loved being able to just kind of go, not bad grammar.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't swipe back then, but it
Yeah.
was the same concept.
Yeah.
There was no, I don't think we had smartphones even, but it was, online dating on a laptop. But yeah, so we met in 2013.
So you had 6 kids, and Ted, you had 3.
I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the ages were also younger-ish, or?
Yeah, so
All
I
intertwined.
gave birth to the oldest and the youngest.
Okay.
So we have 9 children in an 8-year span.
Okay, I got it. Wow.
Don't ask me to rattle off the ages. She can do it. I mess it up. Believe it or not, Jen was not the first girl with 6 kids that I went out on a date with.
Oh, surprise, surprise.
And well, for me, I figured if she was crazy, I could run, and it would be really tough for her to chase after me.
Yeah, with 6 kids.
Yeah. No, but listen, you can all see how beautiful Jen is. And of course, we had our pictures of our faces on there. And so that I love kids. That didn't, scare me away by any stretch of the imagination.
He
And,
actually told me later that he just looked at my pictures and didn't even read the profile at first.
yeah, I don't remember exactly what I read or didn't read. That is probably the case, though. Just saw the pictures and sent a quick message. And went,
And
oh,
the rest
shoot,
is history.
later on. Yeah.
No, that's so great. Because, yeah, I think dating apps back then weren't necessarily like a thing.
No, it wasn't. There were no apps. It was on the laptop. I mean, I don't know.
Well, right,
he
no,
might have
you're
had a smartphone,
Yeah.
but I was.
No, I think I
was
still
not.
had a BlackBerry.
Wow. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. No, but Match was big, and
Okay.
yeah, OK Cupid. I don't even know if it's around anymore. It was
gosh,
the free version of Match, basically.
I had to do the free version.
But it wasn't a whole industry like what we
No.
see
No.
today.
No.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, hey, it works. I've heard
Yeah.
good things about it. So,
Yeah, absolutely, it worked.
I mean, honestly, that you're both here and in a loving kindness relationship and alive and
We're still smiling.
like that's a miracle all in itself with 9 kids. So
Yeah.
congratulations. That's just why you're here. You're the experts in my mind. I'm like, I have a lot to learn.
Well, the majority of them are out now,
Okay.
actually.
Yes.
So we're on the tail end.
Okay.
So it's,
Yep.
which is interesting, also in just different ways.
Well, yeah. So I can imagine, once you started dating, I think you mentioned you had waited a little time before introducing one another to each other's kids, right?
Yeah, our situations were very different. My marriage, I chose to step out of a terrible marriage after 15 years. So my children had experienced trauma. In Ted's case, it was a little bit different. It was probably more that he experienced boredom. I don't want to speak for you, but
Well, we just became disconnected in a very different situation. We made a decision through that to not bring the kids into our situation at all and just manage it like adults. So
Yeah.
really talk about 2 ends of the spectrum
Yeah.
in terms of Jen's situation
Yeah.
and my situation. So
but because of that, I knew that I could not introduce another man into the equation unless I knew he was going to stick.
Yeah.
I mean, my children were really almost desperate for a father
Yeah.
at that point, and especially when they're just young. And I had 4 boys and 2 girls, and now we have 6 boys and 3 girls. But it was just something that I felt like it would be very unfair to them to have them experience dating with me.
Okay.
So for me, I was not willing to even talk about him until I knew that it was going
Viable.
to last.
Yeah.
So we dated for about 4 or 5 months, began to talk to our children about the other. I met his children, he met my children, and then we all met together at a park one day, sometime the next spring.
So what was the difference between, for instance, the older kids and the younger? Like when, you started kind of being more together, having togetherness.
yeah, I mean, my 3 were still all pretty condensed and hadn't either experienced the situation that
Yeah.
Jen's kid. I mean, they're now all my kids as well, but
Yeah.
I'll say Jen's kids for now, because the older ones had some traumatic experiences.
Yeah.
And so you can elaborate on that. For me, it was pretty straightforward. My three were all in the same headspace, really.
Yeah, I think my younger biological children were relatively protected
Okay.
through the bad years. And he actually
Okay.
stepped in before things got really bad.
Okay.
So we were able to, we had, at that point, I had maybe 2 years of relative calm on the surface with just some tumult happening underneath in the divorce arena.
But the kids didn't
Then
really...
things got really bad after we
Okay.
met. The kids weren't super clued
Right on.
into
Okay.
to a lot of
Got
things. The dynamic of
I mean, we
just-
want to protect them, right?
We do.
Ultimately.
yeah,
From anything like that, so...
and intentional, very, very intentional with how I presented everything, how we discussed the situation. And so really most of the worst of what I experienced happened after Ted and I already met. So he was able to walk that
to
with
help
me.
kind of
But
be
yeah, I would say
a support
in the
and a
beginning,
unified front, I'm sure, for your kids was easier for them to kind of go through those additional traumas. Ted, how did you approach, or what things did you do to help Jen's biological children to like just be more comfortable in a sense?
It was a little bit tough at first because I didn't know what to do right at first. And I think that many people believe that if you get into a relationship like ours and you all of a sudden have additional kids, that everything's going to work the same as it did with your kids. And it doesn't.
Right.
And Jen just mentioned the word intentional. I figured out, and Jen helped me with this, I figured out that I had to be much more intentional with her kids than with mine. With mine, it's just natural. And there's I like to say that, there's a chemical connection there. And that's meaningful.
Yeah.
And that wasn't there with Jen's kids, obviously. So it took me a little while, but then to just be much more intentional. But then the other variable which made it difficult was out of the 6 kids, they're all different.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right.
Who would have thought the kids would all be different and have their own?
I mean, one of the boys, anyone would think from early on that he was actually my child, like right away. And then, so, a few of them it was harder, right?
Yeah.
Because there was more distance. I did not understand them. And Jen can talk much more about this and about the differences from one to another.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure, look, I mean, I have a hard enough time understanding my teenage kids of my own, so much less, teenagers are tough, right? So I can see the challenge.
I think one of the biggest differentiators is that Ted's children didn't need anything from me.
Okay.
They have a beautiful mother who is safe and whole and is still in their life. We are friends. And so I was able to just be a friend to his children. In my case, my biological children, they needed something desperately from Ted.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely a different dynamic. And they were also very cautious, especially the older kids.
Yeah.
They had experienced not just trauma, but constant disappointment. They had, we all at some point see our parents through adult eyes, and we realize that our parents are just humans and they are flawed. My children experienced that way too early.
Okay.
And so they were now, I would say, especially for our oldest daughter, it was actually not until years later that we found out that she carried deep resentment towards Ted for many years. Now, of course, they have a beautiful, wonderful relationship. She carries his last name. He's adopted her. And it's a story of redemption, but there were times where, if I could go back and do it again, I would try to look beyond my own, just the joy and excitement of a new relationship, right?
Yeah.
We step into these new relationships.
I was
We've
going to
been
say,
lonely.
Yeah.
And we are, we were in love and we were texting 1,000 times a day and just high on new relationship joy.
Right.
And that can really blind you, I think.
Yeah.
And so there is, even though we were as intentional as any couple I've ever met in stopping, pausing, going slow, taking not just 6 months to introduce our children, but 4 full years before we got married.
Yeah.
And taking that time to go, okay, how do we parent? How do we approach mealtime?
Yeah.
How do we approach discipline? What is our approach towards screen time? We were intentional about everything, and yet we still missed a lot.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard too, like you had mentioned to me before we started taping, was like you each have different parenting styles too.
Yeah.
So you have to put that in as a factor, right? I can definitely feel you on the whole, like having older kids and introducing someone new, and just them being resentful of the whole thing. And then also judging me, and then putting daggers at me because they were clearly hurting and, all of that, which is fine. I mean, I was able, because of Rudy's, situation with his health, like I pre-grieved almost, knowing that this was all happening. So the transition for me wasn't the same as the kids, right? Yeah. So yeah, I can see where that would be just so much to navigate through. With the kids, but clearly it worked. And I wanted to ask you this: were you both like had faith and were in the church and all of that as all of this was going on, or was that something that you built later together?
Somewhat.
Okay.
Very different.
Okay.
I grew up Catholic, but then didn't go to church other than Christmas and Easter for probably close to 20 years.
Okay.
And then right before I met Jen, and it's funny how these things work sometimes, right before I met Jen, I started going to church just on and off.
Yeah.
But then we met, and I learned, pretty soon thereafter that Jen was very faithful and went to church every Sunday, and that was a huge part of her life. And that I was fine with that, and I respected it, and I'd rather that than the alternative. But I wasn't necessarily ready to just become that on day one.
Right.
Right. And probably the best thing that Jen did with respect to faith is she just let me do it at my own pace.
Yeah.
Had it not been that way, I probably would have responded very differently, just because of where I was at the time. So,
yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. No, I love that. And I'm sure that your kids also, on each side, like as they're all being raised and, brought up in a faith-based home, it was like whatever bridge you could build, right? To make them be comfortable in that and not like force it.
Yeah. I definitely didn't force it even with my kids, and I didn't want to. But I started to see right away, especially when we started going to church together with all of the kids, and my kids would go into the youth services with Jen's kids, and I started to see what it did, and just realized very soon that that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted for them.
I mean, I believe that the faith journey is an individual one, and it always has to be. And so for us, we parent in stages and in seasons. And so when you are parenting babies and toddlers, you are building that foundation, and you are just everything. And so of course we are going to talk about faith nearly constantly. And it just becomes, faith is the most important thing in my life. And so my relationship with Christ is everything. And so, when they are babies and they are little, it's just, this is who we are as a family unit. This is what we do. As you kind of move into more that coach stage and mentoring stage, we really have to not just allow, but we have to encourage them to step and to take that journey themselves. And so we have conversations all the time now about things that they don't necessarily agree with, that we agree with, or they're questioning things about our past, or even, wanting to explore different churches. And we encourage that and say, go. Try that. Yeah, I needed to leave my parents' church. It was just a necessary step in my journey. And so we do think that that's, it's really important. But I think, it was a lesson that I learned the hard way in my prior marriage, is that it is never my responsibility to carry the spiritual health of another adult.
Yeah. Oh, that's very well said. I mean, we all need that, not even just as adult to adult, but even adult to our kids. Because I do know there were times that I think my kids were questioning, like, well, what is happening right now, you know?
Right.
And not to force it upon them or just continue to say the rhetoric or say the verses. Like, they have to actually pause, reflect, like, ask themselves from within, like, what does it mean to them and what's real and what's not real?
Well, and I think our approach towards faith is always about faith and not religion.
That's right.
And so
That's so personal.
Yes.
Like, it's so personal.
And we talk so much about the why and not the how. So it's much less about these are a set of rules or a set of standards that you must follow. And it's why. Well, why is this the best choice? What are the consequences of living differently or choosing differently? And so,
Did you have any, I guess, slack back or from the community about, like, coming back together? And I know you said you waited so long to get married and not to kind of just be like, oh, well, this is what it says to do, so this is what we're going to do. Like, how did that work for you guys? And living together with the kids, like getting married, the whole moving in, like, what did all that look like?
I would say for the most part, everyone was just super excited for both of us, both of our families. Initially, my mom struggled a little bit with the idea of me getting remarried. I think she was nervous for me and was a little...
As any mother would be.
But once she met Ted, she just fell
knew.
in love with him, maybe more than I am. So, but yeah, we definitely did not really have any pushback from anyone. It's just been, I think when you see two healthy adults who are whole, this idea of completing each other is so unhealthy.
Yeah, that's right.
We need to be complete. We had both been very intentional about looking in the mirror after our divorces, and regardless of what the reason was, and in spite of the fact that in my case there was kind of a bad guy,
right?
But that doesn't mean that I didn't need to look at myself and say, okay, but where have I moved from who I should be? Where have I developed bad habits? What shades have I turned because I needed to?
Yeah.
What layers do I have on that are unnecessary any longer? Yeah. And just some laziness and just other things that had developed in me, maybe out of necessity or out of survival, but things that I could put off and didn't need any longer. And so being intentional for almost 2 years before I stepped into dating, and he had done the same.
Doing all the inner work.
Yeah, we were so kind of complete that it's actually very interesting because I think it's allowed me to need him because I don't need him.
Right.
And that's kind of sounds silly, but it's
very
very
it's
true.
Vulnerability, right? Yeah. You have to, like, I was reading, there's this really cute book, like 1,000 Tips for Happy Relationships. And it doesn't just focus on couples, but one of those things is like being able to like be honest with yourself, with your partner, and then be vulnerable, with some of these things of like, understanding that it's a trauma response to be like, no, I got it. Like, I don't want to count on anyone. I don't need anyone. I can just do everything myself. It's because you've been let down and hurt so many times. So being vulnerable and then having this kind of like turn of events internally with a relationship, that's just beautiful, really beautiful. And it takes work. Like you said, I mean, it's not going to be overnight. Like it's 2 years plus. Like we're never going to stop, I think, working on ourselves. Right.
Well, and I would say it's probably one of the keys to why 13 years later, we are still best friends, absolutely make each other laugh all the time, is that we have and still approach every day with intentionality. And there's a word that I don't think I truly understood until I met Ted, and that is sacred. That our marriage is sacred. That I have a lot of rules. He only has a few rules, but in regards to our marriage, it is we will never, there are certain things we will just never compromise on.
Yeah.
And one of them is the way that we speak to and about each other.
Yeah.
And so it is.
Keeps it safe.
It
like
is.
a purity,
Yes.
there.
And
it sets a great example.
That's exactly right.
yeah.
That's exactly right. Wow. I mean, this is just incredible. I just, I know that it's been the 13 years. Have you guys, I'm sure, like every married couple, gone through like the ups and downs, or where you've found that there's distance there, or the challenges of raising the kids, or your co-parenting styles are different, right? How do you overcome those challenges?
I'd say that they're honestly, it hasn't been too drastic.
Okay.
There have been situations where I'd say we probably start to annoy each other more
Okay.
than anything.
I annoy him way more than he annoys me. Yeah.
No, 50-50. But so those have, I'd say 90% of the time where we got to the point where we didn't feel like talking to each other. It was the
Okay.
result of that, right? But I think that because of the mutual respect that we've just always had for each other, we have never, ever been nasty to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've never said a nasty thing. I've never called Jen anything
Yeah.
disparaging or disrespectful.
Words are so powerful. And I
Yes,
always
they
told
are.
my kids, like, whatever you leave your friend or someone with your words, what you say, when they think of you in the future, that's what they're going to think. And it's either sending you good or bad energy, because everyone emits energy and thoughts are energy. So the more nice things you have to say, and, trying to be positive, and of course, like some days we're not happy or whatever, but
Yeah.
keeping that in mind, and then, not saying things that would later on hurt or offend that person.
Yeah.
It's so powerful.
Yeah, it is. And we've had the advantage, and I try to look at the good in everything. We had the advantage of being in relationships in the past
Yeah.
that we made mistakes in,
Yes.
right? And we both learned from those mistakes. But, Jen has always, from day one, been very deliberate about building me up and telling me that she's proud of me. And so that makes it so easy for me to want to just always do the same back to her. And there's never been any reason to go negative, even when, she's done something that I get incredibly annoyed at, and I just walk out of the room and come back a few minutes later, or,
Well, appreciating the differences, right? I mean, those are also key. I think we're not all the same. And even though, let's say we are in a marriage or a long-term marriage, it doesn't mean that we're going to do and be and think and everything the same. So I did find that with Rudy, once we kind of got over the hump, and like he accepted my imperfections and I accepted his imperfections, and then we could joke about it.
Yes.
Like, I do think keeping the jokes and
my
like
gosh. We laugh
humor.
constantly.
That's key. And right before you said that, I was getting ready to say the one thing that I'm able to do with Jen that I probably didn't do very well in my last marriage was, if she says something that would have pissed me off or gotten me upset in the past, I just laugh now.
Yeah.
And it's actually really important for me. Like the fact that he just calls me out on my ridiculousness is absolutely the best response.
Right.
So it's just, we actually just laugh all the time. We just crack
I think
ourselves
that's
up.
so important. And I think it's actually, I mean, they say like it's really important for your health and for longevity and for youthfulness, like to keep a joyful spirit and to find the humor in life. I mean, we're all human. We're all doing crazy human things. Like we can't take ourselves so seriously at the end of the day.
I'm pretty sure it's impossible to laugh and have negative thoughts or be upset at the same time.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
I think it's just a very healing mechanism of the human body and spirit to do it. So if you can find your forever partner and your companion to do it with, all the better. And it shows your kids too, that like, even though everything was so challenging and all these like traumas and things like happen, it doesn't mean that you're going to let it steal your joy.
Well, and I think, I learned a lot of really good lessons. And one I always talk about is how I really learned coming out of trauma that peace is not a lack of conflict. It's being able to stand still in the middle of it.
Oh, gosh.
But
That's
I think
so powerful.
similarly, joy is different than happiness. Happiness is dependent on our circumstances and what we have or what it looks like in our life at that moment. But joy is a choice. It's not a feeling, right? Like it's a decision. And so joy is something that we have chosen, and it really doesn't matter what's happening around us. I mean, like I said, Ted went to court with me probably close to 40 times. You know, we had to experience everything that goes along, not just with divorce, but of actually true trauma and stepping out of domestic abuse, and then having that abuse escalate to the point that we had to flee the state and move into protection.
Wow.
And lived in protection for 4 or 5 years. And yet, those are the most joyful years of my life because it's a choice that we've made and have said it doesn't matter what's happening around.
And you can continue to build on one another and your relationship and your kids, that's the most important part, right?
Yep.
Well, I really applaud you just for speaking up and sharing just about the trauma in the past. I know that you guys, if you guys didn't know, Ted and Jen have a podcast on parenting and talking about all the crazy stuff it is to parent teenagers and 9 kids at that. So I really invite you guys to check it out. All the links are going to be in the comments. But in addition that you're going to be doing more speaking engagements and looking to inspire other women who have gone through domestic abuse.
Yeah, it's a decision we made about 2 years ago, and then it took me about another year to kind of truly decide to begin to speak up. But I believe it's time. Our stories carry weight, and like you said, words have meaning, and they're powerful. Yeah. And I am in a place of such blessing and such peace, and truly my wounds have created wisdom. And so it is just something that I am willing to now speak on. And so just started sharing in August of this year. I kind of jokingly call it coming out of hiding, but you know, we really were truly hiding. I had 0 online presence for over a decade. Wow. And so to kind of be stepping into this, it is a bit surreal. Yeah. It's a bit cathartic, and it's been lovely to know that in the same way that I had not just Ted, but I had an advocate from the court system who went to court with me year after year. I had friends who would sit and listen to me emotionally vomit for hours on end.
God bless our friends.
And so, and I have quietly been doing that for about a dozen women that I have helped kind of step out of or through domestic violence. But, you know, I really have been kind of playing with this idea that I'm not just a survivor any longer. I'm a thriver. Yeah. And so, you know, I think when we're in survival, we need to be in hiding. We need to give ourselves the time to heal and to let our clothes dry off when we got pulled out of the ocean and we were drowning. But that's just not where I am any longer. And so,
I mean, no doubt you're going to inspire so many women. And I think even just speaking out like that in itself is a heroic act. And talk about act or actions, like taking those inspired actions is where I believe God really will build some amazing, results in our community and beyond. So I really applaud you for that. And just, I know it takes a lot. So you guys should be so proud, both of you. Now, I guess moving on, I think just, I look at myself and my situation of, Rudy's passing and the kids are older. It is a little more challenging with the teenagers, bringing someone new into the picture. So I've been also trying to be as deliberate and intentional as possible. But I can only imagine, like, for instance, going through a messy divorce or being in a crisis kind of situation in a past relationship. Like, if you could talk to any of the parents watching, any of the folks watching our episode today, what kind of things would you give as advice, tips, anything you can think of that would help yourselves, one another, when we're talking about bringing blended families together and trying to move on from the trauma, building a new life?
Yeah, I'd say a couple things. First of all, in any marriage, whether it's a first marriage, a second marriage, blended family, the relationship between the two people who are married always has to be the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because if that's not strong, nothing else will be. And that's not how I was in my first marriage. Like, we just jumped full in. It was all about the kids, and we forgot about ourselves. We forgot about the two of us.
Yep.
And that had a big effect on where that went, right?
Yeah.
And so I always talk about when you get on an airplane and they tell you to put the mask on, they tell you to put yours on first for a reason. You have to take care of. And the other part about that is that's the only relationship in that family that isn't natural.
That's right.
It's not chemical. So you have to put more effort into that relationship.
Yeah.
Even if you fell madly in love, because we all know what happens over with time, right?
Yeah.
So you have to work at that. You don't have to work to keep that connection with your kids.
Right.
With the people with whom you have a chemical connection,
bond.
right?
Yeah.
Bond. And so that's the first thing. And then the other thing is, remember that kids are very resilient. And so, you want to do the right thing, whether it's introducing another person to them or...
and just catering to the kids, right? Of like what their needs are all the time, an emotional sense and all of that.
Yeah.
I got lost. I mean, even Rudy and I.
Yeah.
Same thing. We got lost. And then add on the, businesses and ventures and work and the home and all of the other things. Gosh.
Yeah. I think specifically for blended families, it is really important to remember that your bond with your natural children is going to be easier and intuitive. And your bond with your new love is going to be running on hormones. And so that's easy.
Yeah.
And so it's important to be super intentional with the children that are not yours biological. But it's also really important to give them space with their biological parent because regardless of how healthy the former relationships are, I, as the stepmom, he as the stepdad, we're a foreign object stepping into this relationship.
Yeah.
And so it is impossible and ridiculous to expect that 100% of everything is going to stay the same or feel the same. And it's actually very important. I actually wish if there was one thing I could do differently, I would go back and encourage him to have more time alone with his biological children after we were married. And similarly, I actually, there was more of that built in.
Right.
To just because of the nature of how he traveled.
Togetherness and like have the kids together and be together. But I can see like they still need their own time with their dad.
And that's safe.
And that they can then have time and space to even open up maybe and share what they're actually going through. Because I find that teenagers, and I know you guys know this, they like will just bury everything and they don't want to talk, Yeah.
Yeah.
And not that I want to force it, but you want to create the opportunity.
Create that space for the natural relationships to continue to blossom and don't step into those natural spaces more than you have to, because our hormones and the chemical bonds will keep those relationships strong.
Yeah.
But we need to just make sure that they continue to feel safe in those spaces. And then, I think just going in with realistic mindsets. If I had expected him to have the exact same bond and feelings and approach towards these 6 children that he had not fathered biologically,
Right.
that would have been a ridiculous assumption on my part and probably would have led to disappointment from me and frustration and resentment. So instead, my approach was always, well, anything that he gives them from a love or support or even discipline standpoint is more than they're getting from just me as a single mom.
Right.
And so it was, in that regard, it allowed me to not expect more from him than he was able or willing to give.
Right.
And similarly, I think
vice versa.
Vice versa.
Yeah, that's good. Any other tips you would have for parents out there trying to navigate this blended family? I feel like it happens so much now, and it seems like from the outside when you look like, oh, it's all fine and it works out and whatever. And I know kids are resilient, but I don't know. It's just
Never underestimate the value of just sitting and having conversations. Like, I think so much of the reason why Ted has a really healthy, strong, good relationship with all of the kids who all call him dad, and most of him took his name when they were adopted, is that he just was there every night. Consistent for decades. And he didn't even necessarily always discipline. He didn't necessarily always do maybe the traditional father role to them for a lot of years, but he was always there. He was always a voice of calm. Well, maybe not calm, a voice of reason, a voice, he was, stoic in that father way, supportive.
Offering space.
Yeah. And I think that in itself is just so important to just be there, especially in that relationship that is new between you and a stepchild, or, it's just, man, I can remember my stepdaughter who's 18, she and I are just dynamically close now. And for a lot of years, we were not super close, but I was always just there to go sit next to her on her bed.
Yeah. How are you doing?
When she needed me, right?
Yeah.
Just we have to remember, as adults, we always have to choose to be the adults.
Yeah.
Even when we still feel like, I don't know how to do this. Like,
Right.
I still don't know what I'm doing
run.
actually when it comes to parenting.
Never mind.
Right? But we know more than they do.
Yeah.
And so we have to be the adults. And so you keep doing and saying what's right. Even if you're not getting the reaction. And remember, teenagers, we don't see what's going on inside.
No, that's
right?
true.
We see a facade, we see a shell. Man, there is usually so much there. They have Doctor Who hearts, right? They're so much bigger on the inside than they are on the outside. And so it's so important to, like, if I measured my success as a parent by what my kids looked like on the outside, especially when they're 13, I would feel like a failure every minute. But we need to, parenting is a long game.
Yeah.
I always say that, but it is true, right? Where they land is what matters. And so, and we're seeing a lot of the fruit of that now with mostly adult children.
Yeah.
Is like, it was the years when they were 10, 11, 12, 13, when I either wanted to strangle them or I wanted to cry.
Yeah.
And yet you keep doing the right thing. And a lot of times that just means sitting and having a conversation with them.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Communication is key.
Yeah. One other thing that I thought of was, Jen alluded to it, but in a little different context, be adults, in that blended families typically are the result of a couple of different relationships not working out, and the situations may not be great. Be adults and don't bring those things into that blend.
Okay.
It's hard to do.
Right.
We're all emotional people and we get upset. Sure. And then when you do have two people who come together and love each other, they'll feed off each other when they're talking about the exes.
Yeah.
Be adults and don't say bad things about,
even if
in front
it
of
was
the
a
children.
bad situation.
Even if it was, I'm sure there was. I'm not saying there aren't bad situations. It doesn't help. It won't help. And one of the things that I've always respected the most, maybe, out of Jen, is that even with the situation she went through, she never, ever talked poorly about their father.
Yeah.
in front of the kids.
Yeah.
And I used to think to myself, why wouldn't you? You have every reason to or every right to.
Yeah.
But over time, I got to realize the benefit of that and the goodness in it, and it made a huge difference.
Yeah. Well, and of course, she had you there to discuss those things with privately.
Yeah.
That it didn't have to really be exposed to the kids.
Right.
Yeah.
But similarly, one of the very first things I noticed about Ted was how respectfully he talked about and spoke to his ex-wife.
Okay. Yeah.
And that just is so important because and also just allowing his relationship with her to be his relationship with her.
Got it.
I do not step into that. I've also was very intentional from the beginning about building a relationship with her. So once I knew that Ted and I were going to stick,
yeah,
I sent her an email and just kind of introduced myself. We maybe had met at a kid's game or something, but basically just said, look, I'm going to marry this man. I'm going to marry your ex-husband.
Yeah.
She was remarried and had a child already by the time. And just told her, I will never compete with you. I can't imagine what it must be like to have someone else come in and try to mom my kids. I never had to experience that. I want you to know you will always be their mom. I'm not going to ever try to step in, and that you and Ted will make all parent decisions together. And that is not my place to step in. And similarly, on the day that we got married, I wrote another letter to her and sent her flowers because it was probably the first big event in her children's lives that she was not a part of.
Wow.
And I knew that was going to be just maybe a little bit hard. And so just being very intentional about saying, like, she is not a factor
loving
in
her
our relationship.
Even
Exactly.
through the changes.
Yeah. And beginning to share my story, it's my story. It's not my ex-husband's story. And so I actually prefer not to even use that term, right? Like this is my story and I'm not. And so for all the years that my children knew what was happening, and I've always been very honest with them while protecting them. That's very different. You can be very honest and earnest with your children without bad mouthing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the high
or
road is a
divulging
choice.
details
Without
that
sharing
don't
every detail, right?
necessarily they don't need to know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I do think that is a really important part. And it goes back to being a whole person.
Yeah.
Right. If you are not a whole person, if you are not a safe and a strong,
Like emotionally balanced
person, you can go into a new marriage and you're still bringing the same crap into it. And so it is so important that if you want it to work out for your sake and for your kids' sake, man, look in the mirror first.
Yeah, like you said, was on the onset of look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. Well, I mean, you guys are just a plethora of information when it comes to this. Is there anything that you want to add or inspire our community and our viewers here on the show?
Well, I would just say I can remember being at I had this tiny little house with the 6 children in my couple of single mom years, and sitting at the dinner table, and our now 22-year-old daughter was probably 8 at the time. And one of her little brothers said, "Mom, when are we going to get a new dad?" Oh. And she looked at him and she said, "Oh, buddy, nobody is ever going to want to marry a woman with 6 kids."
Leave it to those oldest daughters.
Yeah.
So my point is that if there was somebody who was willing to marry a woman with 6 kids, there's somebody for everybody. So if you are in that...
And don't be afraid to put it on your dating profile.
True.
Well, this has just been lovely. Thank you both for being here and sharing and just being so candid. I know that this is going to help inspire many of our viewers. We have a lot of the blended family dynamic here in our area and beyond. So, yeah, if this reached or touched any of you, or you know anyone who would benefit from watching our show, please share. Please share and tell me where can we find your podcast? What's the name of the podcast?
Shoot Straight Parenting.
Okay, Shoot Straight Parenting. I like it.
And we're on all the platforms.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm thrilled to see what comes next with all of our kids getting older and set off into the world.
Yeah.
It's been such a blessing meeting both of you. And
Likewise.
I look forward to getting together again soon.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Yeah. So it's not just for adults. This is for the kids too. And if you're a kid out there, you know, where your mom and dad were divorced or something bad happened and your parents or your mom or dad want to, you know, meet someone new, just have hope, you know, stay hopeful, because what always is or what was doesn't always have to be, right?
Yeah.
Like Pastor Charlie says.
Yeah. And I was even referring to like, send the link to your ex.
Oh, yeah. I like it. I like it. All right. So we're off to ping pong questions. This is the fun part of the season. I've got some quick questions. And I guess either or if you want to answer, totally fine, however you want to do it.
Sometimes our answers are the exact same on certain things, and
I'll
sometimes
go first
they're
with
totally
the first
different.
one, and then you go first with the next one. We'll go back and forth. Ready?
Thank you for playing along.
Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite family dinner?
Oh, I like all food, but I'd say the dinners where all the kids are there.
Okay. I love that.
That's so funny. I was going straight to food. So I would say spaghetti is probably the big family dinner that everybody likes. But
Or
they
that, like,
also
everyone
love
eats
tacos.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
spaghetti.
I like it. You said this a couple times in the episode, but parenting advice you'd give your younger self.
Oh, I would say as a really young mom, when I was just in survival, like put on a clean shirt and get a babysitter
Okay.
and go out. Like serve yourself every once in a while.
Yeah. Love that.
Don't be a martyr.
No, I agree.
be a martyr.
That's ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. Oh, for me, it's calm down,
Okay.
chill out. My son will be a father soon. And
Congratulations.
Thanks. It's what I'm trying to get across to him, because
Okay.
he can have some of the same tendencies I did at that age.
Yeah.
And just life does not have to be so serious.
Yeah. I like the phrase practice the pause.
Yeah.
Yes.
That little phrase, if I can get it like in my head, it works miracles,
Yeah.
which is the breathing. And then now I'm oxygenated in my brain and I can actually make a good decision.
Yeah.
All right. What's your recharge routine after a long day?
Oh, mine is definitely hopping on the tractor and going out and mowing the fields.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I love it.
I like to go for a prayer walk.
Oh.
So I walk our property and just pray.
Yeah. Nature has a real magical way of healing us and bringing
Does.
down all of our crazy emotions and
Yeah.
energy, right?
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. A song that instantly lifts your spirit.
Grapes Are Off by Weezer.
Okay. I like it.
My favorite author and one of my favorite bands. So.
Oh, Weezer.
Oh,
Okay.
there are a few. Jen will laugh when I say this, but probably Living on a Prayer.
Oh, I love
It
that.
was going to be something but rock from the
Yeah.
80s. So.
No, I love it. I love it. I'm an 80s kid, so, you know,
Nothing like it.
it's my jam. Okay, and then last question. One word that defines your marriage today.
Fun.
Respectful.
Oh, that's so beautiful. It's always good to have fun and respect in a relationship. They both go a long way. Well, thank you for playing along. This has been just a
fun.
great time.
Yeah.
And I know that my viewers are going to love this show. So let's introduce them to where they can find you on Instagram and the podcast.
Yeah, so our podcast is Shoot Straight Parenting Podcast. The handle is Shoot Straight Podcast
Okay.
on all the socials. And my personal is Jennifer Hess Williamson.
Okay. Awesome. This has just been
Thank you.
such a lovely time and so inspirational. I know my viewers, I know you guys are going to really love and benefit from this. So again, like, share, subscribe. If you know someone who would benefit from this podcast show, please share it. I'm here to inspire. And as always, we're here to bring you great content that will help lift your lives. So thank you for being here, guys. We'll see you in the next episode.